I don't think I've ever hated anything more than I hate Destiny. I hate it so much that I enjoy playing it and immersing myself in everything to do with it. We have approached and long past negative levels of hatred. I find myself inescapably drawn to it, like moths to a flame. I mean, I should be off playing games that I enjoy. I should be playing Warframe, which is literally just Destiny, but better in every single way, and also I have over 2,000 hours in it. Please send help. But here I am, playing Destiny, the Joker to my Batman. Let's get started. So this time around, Destiny has a good story to tell, and it's far better than what the original game had to offer. At least that's the general consensus. But the general consensus is wrong, and I mean from an objective standpoint. Destiny 2's story is straight trash, but I can understand why you would think that Destiny 2 has a great story. Compared to what we got with the first game, it does look better at a glance, but all you gotta do is separate these screaming Siamese twins to realize that Destiny 2 does not hold up on its own in any way, shape, or form at all. And, like, I get that from a certain perspective, it looks like a good story. Bungie does a fantastic job at presenting the game in an easy-to-digest format that the original Destiny wasn't capable of. For instance, there is something resembling what would be called a plot and a story arc in this game. But that's it. That's it. That's all the sequel has over the original. Everything else is the exact same piss-poor writing when it comes to dialogues, monologues, and just general character interaction. I'd even go so far as to say that the cinematography does nothing to improve on the original game. That's right. The one thing that everyone keeps praising about Destiny 2, it ain't any better. It might be worse. Long story short, I really hate Destiny and I want a reason to complain about it. Case in point, you'll notice that in the background, a scene has been occurring, and I've been running my mouth over it. This is the opening scene of Destiny 2, and for the majority of players in my demographic, this is the first you get to see of the world of Destiny. And what is it? An establishing shot of a structure we know nothing about, a dialogue between three characters we have no connection to, and an ambush from an enemy that we've never heard of before. The player character is not involved in this scene. There is no way for that character to know that this scene is even taking place. This scene is entirely irrelevant to the player's character and does nothing to teach the player himself about the world of Destiny. This scene has no reason to exist other than to have a bunch of boring stoic characters spout boring stoic dialogue and do stoic, boring, generic hero stuff. And this is a running problem throughout the entire game. Let me break it down for you point by point. The purpose of an establishing shot is to give the viewer a physical frame of reference to compare the characters in a scene to. A new player would have no idea what this tower is, where it is, or why it exists. Furthermore, the scene does nothing to explain any of those points. The resulting establishing shot fails to provide the viewer with an adequate frame of reference. On to dialogue. Dialogue exists so that information can be conveyed to the viewer in a way that seems natural to observe. It is most often used for establishing relationships between characters, establishing what information each character knows, and in some cases, a writer who knows what they are doing can hide exposition within a dialogue. Exposition is when a given mechanic or idea is directly explained to the viewer. In this scene, at the very least, the relationship between these characters is established for the player, but it's done in a very stilted way, such as the characters referring to each other by their first name when it wouldn't have been natural to do that. Side note, what's Saikora doing? Why is she reading that report? She's a captain of the Vanguard. Why isn't one of her subordinates delivering and reading the reports for her? That's a prime example of another mistake a lot of writers make. Breaking character. She's doing something that her character would not be doing in this circumstance, and this specific menial action gives a false impression to the viewer that she is in some way inferior to the other Vanguard captains. And of course she is inferior to Zavala because he's kind of the leader of the whole group, but when is that ever established inside the game? Huh? It never is. You have to read a grimoire card about that, except wait, you can't because they got rid of those. Back on track now, oh yeah! Attack from an enemy we know nothing about. The ambush from the Cabal. This is just plain lazy writing. The ambush happens because the plot needs to progress forward somehow. It's never explained who they were. No hints are given to the viewer prior to this event that such an attack would take place. Take, for instance, the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones, for instance. It's a shocking scene. Absolutely shocking. Seems to come out of nowhere because it hits you fast, hard, and at the hands of an unexpected betrayal. But Upon closer examination, you can trace a line of breadcrumbs left by the writers in previous episodes of the show that could only have led to the inevitable conclusion that was the Red Wedding. What I'm saying here is that the Cabal ambush shouldn't have been the first scene of the game. I'm not asking for Game of Thrones quality writing, but there should have been some setup to it, or the player character should have been directly involved with the initial attack or the events leading up to it. But whatever. It's an action game, so I don't knock it too hard for getting the player into the fight as quickly as possible, which is something the original Destiny could have done better. I just wish that instead of showing me a cutscene, my character, or myself, was actively participating in the scene. The ambush is acceptable for the medium, but still lazy writing. And speaking of lazy writing, I think I've said my piece from now. From this point forward, I'm going to go line by line and scene by scene, talking exactly why Destiny 2 has an awful story. Every single line, every single scene, unless it's irrelevant, and then I'll cut it from here. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll handle that later, because I'm lazy right now. I don't have an outro, and I'm terrible at saying goodbye, so